Federal Bank is engaging with local communities through many cultural initiatives across the country around the Indian festivals such as Navratri, Durga Puja and Dashera and Onam and more. This brand is also consciously becoming a part of key cultural moments and occasions like Independence Day and the ongoing Grand Indian wedding season. Recently, they tapped into art forms such as Chakyarkoothu, Theyyam and Kathakali to guide and educate their consumers in Kerala about mental health, interpersonal interactions amongst kids, understanding money management and more. How have all of these initiatives helped the bank establish a strong emotional connect to the audience? What is the kind of impact on the brand so far? Let's find out from MVS Murthy, Chief Marketing Officer, Federal Bank. Welcome to CNBC-TV18.
Thank you, Shibani, for having me on your show.
So let's begin the conversation with the most recent activation or activity that you did in Kerala with some of these art forms like Kathakali.
Yes.
If you can tell us more, where did the idea stem from?
Yes. So, Shibani, I think I'm very proud to tell you that we are perhaps the only brand globally who has been able to pull off this coup. And there are ingredients which are responsible for it. So, the art forms that you mentioned, Kathakali, Chakyarkoothu, Ottam Tullal and Theyyam, are traditional art forms which are at least about 1200 years old. Okay, and they are still relevant at this point in time. However, we live in a generation which is full of digital and social media. So, people live around scrolling. And for them to understand the nuances of the art form is very difficult. It's like, kids not connecting, saying there is a generation gap. So, in one of my travels, when I had gone to a place around Calicut, I had noticed these Kathakali artisans and, they were getting ready and stuff like that. I said, why can't we make this art form relevant here? It was just a thought. This is about 3 years back that I'm talking to you about. And then it's kept simmering. And then we said, why don't we bring this art form in the present day and start talking to kids?
Yeah.
And what do you want to talk to kids about? You want to talk to kids about, say, good touch and bad touch. You want to talk to them about managing their teen years. Kerala is a place where a lot of people live till their late 80s and the 90s. And invariably, as an adult or as a senior citizen, you end up having dementia or Alzheimer's and stuff like that. So how do you manage the elderly in the house who suddenly goes blank and, is unable to communicate? So we thought that all of this will make a nice package. And we also thought that being a bank, teaching them about financial planning is going to be a great idea. And we piloted this across about 10, 12 schools, and we're going to be doing it across more schools. I must tell you that the energy in every school, when the kids saw all of these artists coming in from various classrooms, and they were absolutely surprised, is of a different level. And why do I say it's like a convergence of time? Because for any brand, you need to have an art form which is 1200-year-old. You need to be entrenched in that region or geography for that long to understand the nuance of the art form. And the third, you need to have an audience, even if you want to repurpose. Because if these three things don't come together, then you won't have the concoction that I'm talking to you about.
Yeah, and this is something so niche. So what are some of the elements of imbibing such, traditional cultural art forms into like your storytelling? What are some of the elements that you consider while doing this?
See, the most important thing for us as a bank is that we are a bank which is more predominant in tier 2, tier 3 towns. Okay. And there maybe an ATL is not the way to go out and reach to the local population. So my branch becomes the core of every activity that I go out and do. And I start looking around and preening, saying that what is there around my branch, which is very, very special for that particular location or for that particular pin code. Because if I focus only on that, it is good enough for my business. I'll give you one more example. In Adayar, we have one of our oldest branches, and we did a program called as I am Adayar, Adayar is me. What we did was that we got the oldest citizens of Adayars to come to the branch and spoke about their stories. So the older citizens could be a surgeon, a very senior journalist who has retired now. It can be a sports person. It can be a teacher who's there. But these are the people who really make a pin code what it is. And we as a bank are servicing that pin code, and we are very happy and humbled to have them as our customers. So when you tell stories of people is when the branch sort of, gets accentuated. And what happened was that the book of the branch for the first time crossed 100 crores.
Yeah.
So I think consumers come for the experience. They come because they want to feel special. Otherwise, banking is commoditized, right?
Picking up these stories and picking up these cultural moments is also like a very sensitive topic, considering, the diversity of our country. So how do you ensure that, you are measuring and considering the sensitivities of, that particular region?
So when you keep looking at happy stories like this, I am Adayar, Adayar is me, what I spoke to you about, or when you look at the art form also. It's a happy space because kids want to know how do they go out and conduct themselves. There's something that we did for Independence Day also. When you look for happy spaces, you come at a place where everybody is in it together. If you can use culture the other way, you want to stir a controversy or you want to pick up on a controversial thing and then you want to go out and build. It works for some brands. It doesn't work for our brand. And being a bank, it is very important for me to be in a space of happy lifestyle, being able to support my customers in the life stage that they are in. And these stories can be spoken with a lot of joy rather than stirring up a controversy. So we keep looking at saying that what is the most common denominator of happiness in a space? And that's where we operate.
Happiness is one factor. How do you ensure that they sound genuine to that particular culture, to that particular region?
Yeah. So if you can't fake it, don't make it. All right. So
what are the potential pitfalls as well, if you can?
The pitfall is like, for example, if I pick up a cause which say some other brand is picking up and doing it, I will not be able to pull off. I have to be myself. Authenticity is very important, when it comes to brands. The other thing is that at every given moment of time, something or the other is happening. So if you can't walk in and be the part and play the part, the consumer understands. He will find that it's very, very flaky. The second thing that the consumer wants is that he or she wants to be represented well in honesty with as much as integrity as possible. So when we spoke about these stories, the consumers were saying their own story. There were no filters, so to say, and they were absolutely raw people. And you could find that there were tears of joy. The eyes went moist when they said, this is my picture and has been showcased here. You have an 82-year-old journalist, who's retired and he's living there, and he says, and the pride that you have to call your grandchildren to have a look at it, to call your spouse. It's just a different kind of a thing. And then it does not look like the other part that we avoided. And when I said the book went up, is to push for a product sale. Because then, it's a giveaway, saying that this is why these people want to go out and come. Definitely you will go out and, engage in that relationship. And it finally goes back into our premise as a brand, which is Rishta aap se hai, sirf aap se nahi.
In a country where every second day, any other campaign, even for big national brands, let's say like Tanishq, face such a huge backlash for over bindi, over, speaking about something to do with weddings or festivals. How do you ensure that that doesn't happen with some of your cultural initiatives and campaigns?
So this is a mathematical thought, okay? However strong the numerator is, the denominator will pull the numerator down. So you need to understand what is the denominator opinion about anything which is happening around you. I can have all the chutzpah and I can be very swashbuckling and think that this is what I want to go out and say. But you need to be sensitive to what is happening. And at the end of the day, when your brand is affected, it is not just the brand or the riffraff which happens on the social media, which really is like, pins coming to you, but also your stock gets affected. And as a CMO or as a marketing person, you need to be very, very conscious because the marketing department is one, but it has got multiple personalities. And now with the way media has got fragmented, you can get poked from any side.
Finally, before we go, what makes, because considering your experience in creating these campaigns, which are culturally relevant, what makes imbibing culture a key aspect of modern marketing?
So I think marketers, whether ancient, modern or upcoming, should be people who are willing to have a, haversack or a knapsack on their shoulders and going out and exploring as many places as they can. Because the kind of nuances that you can get about an emerging trend, about how somebody looks at a tattoo, about how somebody looks at her earring or how somebody looks at a piece of watch is just amazing. You cannot predict what a consumer wants. And some of the insights that you get from your travels could be completely, they can be game changers. Like, for example, this whole thing of consciousness around plastic. What is happening? So we are somebody who's very conscious about our ESG scores and stuff like that. And that nuance is what we have brought into our everyday work. You will not find plastic bottles inside a Federal Bank office or even in our boardrooms. We consciously bring in glass. But this is something that we have learned from what is happening outside. So if you're not traveling, if you're not going far, if you're not going wide, then you will not have the perspective. And what I told you earlier, it is very important for us to learn from the emerging industries, because as a bank, we have a legacy of being in business, globally, as an industry. And we are learning from the new folks who are coming in and are, setting up business which are just shooting up. So it keeps the entire thing very exciting, and that's the key. You need to travel.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me over.